Hello and welcome to this week's episode. My name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the founder of Real Love Revolution and the upcoming Boundary Bootcamp. So I'm going to start with a question, which is, do you find it difficult to say no? Do you find yourself saying yes when you really want to say no? Do you feel like it's rude to say no? Is that what you were taught when you were growing up? In this episode, which is called 3 Simple Steps to Say No with Ease, I'm going to be giving you some ideas of how you can do that. But first, I want you to understand why it's really important that you learn this skill. And I also want to announce the beginning of Boundary Bootcamp season, which means for the next 2 months or so, I'm going to be talking all about boundaries, effective communication, everything that has to do with boundaries. For those of you the women who have been in our free Facebook group, that is opening up again today, July 23rd. And I'm going to be doing weekly what I'm calling Wednesday Wisdom. So that's going to be about 30 minutes of me just downloading information for you so that it's easier for you to understand your own relationship to your boundaries and effective communication, relationships, and it's not just romantic stuff. This is, boundaries have to do with every relationship in your life. So I'm super excited, and there will be a link for you to be able to join the group. Yeah, so let's get moving on how to say no with ease. First of all, why is it hard? Let's start with that. It's hard because most of us, especially women, we were taught to be nice. And saying no so much of the time makes people feel like they're not being quote unquote nice. So I think we have to sort of dispel that myth about niceness. And when you think about the virtues that are held in high esteem in our society around women especially, niceness, right? Nobody wants to bring home, a strong girl, a strong woman to their mother, right? When we hear about people saying, can't wait to bring a nice girl home, they don't say they want to bring home a successful girl, right? Usually that is relegated to men, right? A woman is looking for someone who's successful if we're looking at gender stereotypes. So, but these things run deep. And even if you're modern, even if you're a feminist, even if you feel like this doesn't impact you, really think about it. Is it difficult for you to say no? Do you find yourself saying yes when you really want to say no? Other reasons why it might be difficult. If you grew up and this behavior was modeled for you. So did you have a mother who was a people pleaser? This was actually a phrase that was started by a woman named Harriet Breaker is her name, who she is now deceased, but she wrote a book in the early 80s called How to Cure the People-Pleasing Syndrome, and it's still a great book today. So being a people pleaser was common in the 80s and is super common now. And so if you were raised by people pleasers, and it could be your mother or your father, this is something that you learn, right? Because modeled behavior, we see what other people are doing as kids, and we do that as well, as if that's the right way to do it. You want to be nice. And if you grew up in what we call a disordered home or a chaotic home, so a home with addiction or abuse or too loose boundaries or too strict boundaries, you may have learned early on that saying no is dangerous, or saying no won't get you the affection of your parents or the attention of your parents. And so as kids, we're such survivors that it doesn't take long to learn that lesson, that especially if you were in an abusive home and saying no is dangerous, you just would say yes and people please to survive. But again, those habits die hard. So you can find yourself continuing to do that in your grown-up life. And fear. The last thing we want to talk about is that it's scary. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid to hurt someone's feelings, right? We don't want people to be mad at us. And these are all reasons why you say yes when you might rather say no. Okay, so let's talk about the cost. Why do you not want to do this? Well, part of it is that think about what saying yes when you really want to say no is. It's being dishonest. So we have this misconception about what it is, as if it's being nice. We're trying to be nice. Giving wrong information I don't think that's being nice, right? Because what ends up happening is that then you get more of the same. So if you never tell your boyfriend or your best friend, or they're like, oh my God, for your birthday, I want to take you to this great Mexican restaurant. And you're like, great, they were so excited. I didn't want to ruin it for them, so I went. Well, maybe you don't like Mexican food, but you find every time you meet that girlfriend, that's where she wants to go. And then you're in a situation where you're like, well, is it too late? Like, I can't tell her I don't like it now because I didn't tell her then. And the reality is it's never too late to turn this ship around, and you really need to if you want to have healthy relationships. And this is a part of drawing boundaries, is being able to own your own no and realizing that it's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying no. And when we look at it from the point of view that saying yes when you want to say no is actually being inauthentic as opposed to being nice, I find that that makes it easier to find a way to say no. And you can say no nicely, right? We don't have to be mean saying no, but if you continue to do things that you don't want to do, the people in your life don't know you, and you end up bitter. You end up like a bitter martyr of like, I'm always doing things I don't want to do. Well, whose fault is that? Oh, it's yours because it's your life, right? So let's talk about the steps that you can take to change this. The first thing is awareness. So that really is the first step in the process, is looking at your history, looking at your family of origin, looking at the way that you were raised, and more deeply understanding why it might be really challenging for you to say no to people or to assert yourself in that way. Because all of us, even if we're grown up, we have little kids inside of us as well. And when we get into a situation that might have been scary or traumatic when we were kids, maybe saying no and then getting into trouble, if you never really processed that through a therapeutic process, or you didn't really understand how much that impacted you in the past, you may find that the fear that you get now when you're in this situation where you really want to say no, but you feel like you can't, it's really a child's fear, right? We call it a transference. It's really not your fear in this moment right now. It's how afraid you were as a child. And it comes into this moment and it informs what you're able to do in this moment. So that's why the first step is revealing your own historical data as to why it's hard for you, the family system you came from, the models of behavior that you saw. So the second step in making it easier is to buy time. Because you may not even know if you want to say yes or no, and you don't have to. So what I call this is getting rid of the insta yes. You don't need to give anyone an instant answer on anything. And the sooner that you really believe that you have a right for space in your own decision-making process, the easier it will start to become. So you're not saying no right off the bat. You can say, I need some time to think about that. You can say, I'm going to give you a maybe for now because I need to look at my calendar, or I need to check with my husband, my babysitter, whoever it is that you might need to check with. Let me get back to you on that. And if it's a bigger commitment, a vacation, something like that with someone, you can say, I actually need some time to think about that, if I can make it happen or not. So buying time is step 2, so that you create space to make an informed decision for yourself, not making a decision because you feel pressured to give that person an instant answer that they don't need. I mean, unless it's an urgent situation, you determine the timeline. And if someone may want it from you sooner, and you can negotiate. If they say, okay, well, I really need to know by Wednesday, you can say, okay, well, the truth is I won't know till Friday. Can Friday work? And if they say no, then you're not doing that thing. It's okay to go back and forth. It doesn't all have to be perfectly smooth, and you don't always have to be agreeing with people. And the third step is to trust your gut. And the only way to know your gut is to do the second step. which is giving yourself time, right? If you know you don't want to sign up for the free whatever it is or take a vacation with someone to Miami Beach or whatever it is, you can have a couple of phrases sort of in your back pocket. And it may sound weird, but I'm going to ask you to actually practice them, because the more you say it, the more you actually hear your own voice saying it, the easier it is to do it when the time comes. So, some of the phrases are, and don't worry, there'll be a little cheat sheet that you can download with the phrases on it, but you can say, no thanks, I'll take a pass, this is not my thing, not today, none for me, thanks, I'm afraid I can't. That's kind of a good one. I'm not really into whatever it is. Let's say it's music. I'm not really into that kind of music, but thanks for asking, right? We can always be polite. How about, I'd rather not, thanks. How about that? I feel like that's perfectly fine. There was a study done, which I find, like I'm on the fence about giving this advice. So I'm not giving this advice. I'm just telling you about a study that was done. And basically what this study concluded, it was like a social study, a social interaction study. And it was this whole situation where it was years ago, someone was online in the public library in New York City to use the copy machine. And they had the person who was basically going to see how other people around reacted, someone trying to cut in line, and how people reacted around them if they said, can I get in front of you? And there was this huge disparity in the percentages of people letting the person cut when they said the word because. And even though their reasoning was rubbish, it was ridiculous, it didn't even make sense. So I think that 82% of the people let the person cut in front of them if they said because. Can I get in front of you because I'm running late? Even that. Which you're like, that's not a good reason for me to let you get in front of me. My time's important. But people didn't respond that way. So perhaps, depending on the situation, you might want to say, no, because I've already taken all my vacation days or whatever it is. And maybe that's like a social manipulation. I don't know. And maybe you don't feel compelled to give anyone a reason, which is more the way I'm leaning. Because my whole feeling with giving someone a reason, unless it's someone in my life who I'm close to and I want to give them context because I actually would like them to understand why I'm saying no, because I want them to know me more intimately, that's different, than saying because a study told me that they'll take it better if I do. Anyway, that's all I'm saying about that. So if you liked today's episode, and I hope that you did, please share it on your social media platforms with your friends and family, anyone you know who might have the people-pleasing syndrome. I hope that you guys have an amazing week. I hope that I will see you either on my business page for my Wednesday wisdom. I think it's at 5 p.m. Eastern, but don't worry, it'll be right here in this post. I hope that I see you there. It's going to be my business page and in the female-only Facebook group that we have, and there'll also be a link for you guys to join that. Sorry, guys. So it's not for men, the Facebook group. So ladies, if you want to be somewhere where there's no guys, you go into the Facebook group. But I'm doing it on the business page because I really want the information to be available to everyone. So there you have it. I hope you have an amazing week. I cannot wait to see you a lot over the next 2 months. And as always, take care of you.